Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Live Chat with James, coming to you from the studios here in Vancouver, British Columbia at ProPix TV. Tonight we're going to take a look at some local, national, and international headlines. But before we do, I wanted to bring up another story that has been kicking off the world in the social media realm. Now, of course, we all know that Joe Biden's announcement that he is at stage 4 colorectal cancer, more specifically prostate cancer, and of course he is battling that along with his family's support. Hopefully he will make it through. Now, we've also seen where individuals such as Donald Trump have given kind words of support. But, of course, there is a catch when it comes to Donald Trump. He turned around within 24 hours and started making accusations and other claims that this health issue had been hidden by the Biden administration while he was in office, that other individuals within the Trump presidency and their administration started making claims that it impacted his ability to lead as president. And then, of course, you get these idiots within the Trump family and organization that have stood up and called out Jill Biden, going as far as the US DOJ, making accusations or claims that she should be charged with elder abuse in relation to not releasing information about Joe's cancer and for not catching it, treating it, and so forth. Furthermore, of course, you have Trump Jr., Don Trump Jr., out there making accusations that he should or that she should have caught it because she's a doctor. Well, there's a difference between an MD and a PhD for idiots like the Trumps who have no clue as to the reality of the world in this context or any other. Now, taking it even further, certain Trump administrators have also come out and made very crude and ignorant comments about the Bidens in their bedroom and other particularly very just disgusting comments online that have absolutely no place and are completely disrespectful, not only to any individual, but especially when you're talking about the illness and cancer of a former president. So again, the Trump administration stoops to new lows that really shouldn't surprise anybody. Their lack of compassion, their lack of concern for anyone but themselves is overwhelmingly disgusting. And really, this Trump administration, every last one of them needs to be tossed out on their ass and furthermore even locked up for some of their treasonous activities that they're participating in. The Trump administration has absolutely no respect, no class, no dignity, and no place in American politics or world politics. So again, just a disgusting display by Trump and his family and his administration. Just disgusting. But let's move on. So let's take a look here, folks, at different stories that are leading the news here in Surrey, in British Columbia, in Canada, and around the globe. It is May the 21st, 2025, approximately 1:38 a.m. Normally we are on a bit earlier, so we are running a little behind this evening, but we'll get right to the stories as we know you've been waiting for. Now, within our own backyard, the latest news from Surrey is that education funding has remained a top hot topic in our community, whether that is recent cuts to the elementary band program, whether that is cutbacks in special education assistance, or many other areas in which the schools have been cutting back on economics, their budgets, and really impacting student programs and overfilling class sizes and so many more ways in which there is inadequate support for the education system here in Surrey, but also throughout the province of British Columbia. Recently, a group did gather to protest in the rain at that, to protest that provincial funding increase that they would like to see for the Surrey schools and schools across the province. Now, they have expressed deep frustration over what they describe as inadequate support for education, pointing, as I said, to the overcrowded classrooms and stretched resources. Organizers further called for the province to prioritize education in the next budget to ensure students have the tools they need to succeed. And we should go even further to say teachers, when they have the tools that they need in order to be more effective in the classroom, everybody wins. We reached out to the Ministry of Education for comment, but of course they have yet to respond. Stay tuned as we will continue to reach out to them, trying to get any comments and find out if there is any unofficial word coming down about budgets or about the finances in the coming budgets. Now, moving on to a dramatic incident in Surrey. There was a house fire last Saturday that we spoke about on the program the other day. Now, that caused significant damage after it spread from a vacant building to neighboring homes. The Surrey Police and the Fire Service are, of course, credited for responding quickly, but the blaze displaced several families. As the police continue to investigate the cause of the fire, they believe that it may have been suspicious, though official determinations have not been made. Our thoughts are with those affected, and we'll keep you posted as more details emerge. If you are interested in assisting any of those individuals that were displaced, I'm sure that if you reached out to the Surrey Police Service or Surrey Fire Service, they would be able to direct you in a more proper manner than I could here. So again, if you're looking to assist those victims of the fires that were displaced, you can reach out to the Surrey Police Service or Surrey Fire Service. I'm sure they will be able to direct you appropriately. Now, in other news, a Surrey bookkeeper has been sentenced for tax evasion. The CRA says the accountant helped hotels dodge nearly $1 million in GST. After pleading guilty, they received a 2-year conditional sentence and 2 years of probation. This case underscores the CRA's ongoing efforts to crack down on tax fraud and is a reminder to stay compliant if you are a business owner. And as we've been reporting on throughout the week, we have been talking about the Surrey resident, Justin Semporios, who is still the talk of the town after winning that $80 million Lotto Max win on May the 9th. It was again the largest single lottery prize in Canadian history. The 35-year-old who calls Surrey his lucky city was emotional during a ceremony in Vancouver last week where he received the ceremonial check. Semporios, who quit his job and plans to give back to the community, says he is still adjusting to this new reality. Congratulations, Justin, and we hope Surrey remains your home for years to come. Finally, in a positive note for 240 school employees, they were honored last week, as we've covered previously, and they were honored for their 25 and 50-year marks of service in the Surrey schools. Among them, Eva Meisner from Surrey Traditional School was recognized for an incredible 50 years with the district. The annual Long Service Awards celebrate the dedication of educators and staff who shape our community's future and help all of those students succeed. Of course, we would like to say well done to all the recipients and thank you for your many decades of dedicated service to our community. Now, let's move on to other stories across Canada. We are looking in British Columbia that the NDP government is facing fierce opposition over Bills 14 and 15, which aim to fast-track approval and permitting processes for major infrastructure projects. Critics, including the industry groups and community advocates, argue that the bills could bypass necessary environmental and community consultations. Supporters say the measures are critical in addressing housing and infrastructure needs quickly. The debate is heating up in Victoria, and we'll be watching this and how it unfolds ahead of the next legislative session. In Vancouver, a childcare crisis is hitting home for many families. A recent story highlighted Maria Torres, a single mother and international student who faced an impossible choice: leave her daughter in Mexico or abandon her studies in British Columbia. Her struggle shines a light on the province's broader child care challenges, with wait lists and costs continuing to burden families. Advocates are urging for the government to invest in affordable childcare solutions. Now, of course, we know that across Canada there is $10 a day childcare. There are other childcare initiatives. And in Surrey, they recently reopened the historic Strawberry Hill Hall that had some fire damage and was reconstructed and reopened as a daycare facility, creating much needed space for that area. So again, we know there are some definite positives coming to light, but again, for international students, it can be a challenge for them to find affordable and available childcare while they tend to their studies. Elsewhere, a dramatic incident in Surrey last week that we're going to give you an update on, that a stolen semi-truck had crashed into the Fraser River after a police chase. It was a movie-like pursuit that ended early Thursday morning. That was on May the 15th, and there were no reported injuries. But that raised questions about vehicle theft and public safety. Authorities are still investigating what the driver's motives were, but again, anything is possible. And of course, we need to look at the different concerns within the automotive theft industry. There has been a rise, more so in Eastern Canada than in Western Canada, of violent auto thefts, as well as home invasions in which they are robbed, but also their cars are taken afterwards as well. So different concerns there, but again, not too often that you see a tractor trailer or a semi-truck that is stolen and leads police on a major chase. Should also be noted that although the Surrey Police Service and RCMP had their vehicles rammed by the driver of this stolen truck, they were able to take the driver into custody successfully at the end of the chase, and again, nobody was hurt. So that is a bright side on that. On the crime front, a former Hells Angel member from Surrey, Damien Ryan, is awaiting trial in Manitoba for his alleged role in a major interprovincial drug trafficking operation. Ryan was arrested in April and faces charges related to threats and drug trafficking. The trial is set for September 2025, and this case highlights the ongoing efforts to combat organized crime across Canada. Just last week, the Peel Regional Police sent an open letter to the Government of Canada and Mark Carney, in which they were looking at different ways in which the national strategy can focus on targeting the organized crime that is happening across Canada. This, again, is very front of mind to people as we hear about more extortion attempts to the South Asian community in the Ontario region and across Canada, but most importantly, where the life of a local businessman was taken just last week. This was 2 days prior to this letter being sent to the Prime Minister and to the federal government. They are calling for a national strategy to be able to increase communications across the country for all different police associations, police departments, and law enforcement agencies, creating more open and transparent communication while also looking to bring together different investigations. It is very common, whether it's in Canada or the US, that different jurisdictions are basically chasing the same tail, and that is in fact the case across Canada, as different law enforcement agencies are investigating different organized crime groups, or sometimes investigating the same organized crime groups but in different regional areas. By bringing together a federal strategy, this could help to actually focus the resources and bring more resources to the hands of officers who are on the front line dealing with this issue. In terms of education news, once again, we are focusing or taking a look here in Surrey, and that is Surrey's own Bob Holmes, a trustee with the Surrey School Board of Education, was elected vice president of the BC School Trustees Association. Holmes, a dedicated advocate for public education, will help guide the association's advocacy efforts over the next 2 years. Congratulations, Trustee Holmes, and thank you for your service. As we continue on there, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at tensions that are escalating in the Middle East as the UK, France, and Canada have threatened concrete actions against Israel over its renewed offensive in Gaza. On May the 19th, these nations called Israel's escalation egregious and demanded an end to the offensive, while also increasing aid access to the region. This follows reports of a devastating ground offensive in Gaza over the weekend, with hundreds reportedly killed in airstrikes. Hamas has supposedly also releasing some hostages in fresh talks in Doha, but no ceasefire deal has been reached. The international community remains divided and will continue to monitor this developing situation. In the U.S., a high-profile bribery scandal has rocked the military, and we're not talking about Trump this time. Retired four-star Navy Admiral Robert Burke was convicted of bribery and conspiracy for directing $355,000 contract to a company in exchange for a promised $500,000 job after retirement. Burke, the highest-ranking U.S. military officer ever convicted of a federal crime while in active duty, faces up to 30 years in prison. This case has sparked discussions about ethics in military contracting. In London, a U.S. tourist fell victim to a sophisticated cryptocurrency theft. Jacob Urban Klein was drugged by a fake Uber driver outside a nightclub and lost $123,000 in digital assets. This included Bitcoin and XRP. This incident has raised alarms about the security of cryptocurrencies and the growing audacity of thieves targeting digital wallets. Authorities are urging travelers to stay vigilant. In Uganda, a significant conviction in a long-standing case, the Daniel Kaskeka case. A former soldier was sentenced to 35 years for the murder of Joan Kagezi, a prominent prosecutor. The guilty plea closes a nearly decade-long investigation highlighting issues of military desertion and violent crime within that region. That is our global roundup for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, so thank you for tuning in on that part. As we continue to look at different stories, we, of course, bring this live session to you about 4 nights a week. Sometimes we add some bonus live sessions, but again, we try to do it at least 4 times a week to keep you updated and to bring you different reports and original content. So once again, we will take a look at a bit of a delve into the subject's deeper inner workings. And of course, tonight's conversation, we can talk about that of the Trump administration. Just kidding. We'll leave that one alone for tonight. We've beat that horse so many times, but they just keep giving us different content in which to criticize and to deal with. So again, it's not all bad, but it's not all good. As we move on, though, folks, let's take a look at some other interesting stories that are impacting the world and impacting individuals. Now, in the world of AI, it is interesting to look at the current situation when it comes to photography, videography, whether it is written text or other forms of media. The U.S. Copyright Office is being reduced to a bare bones, and of course the top copyright administrator in the U.S. was recently let go. Coincidentally, this individual was let go or fired 1 day after declining an application or refusing an application by XAI and, of course, Elon Musk. Coincidence? I don't think so. Now, essentially, what's going on is that Elon Musk and his XAI program are looking to delve deep into the archives of of novels, of historic documents, of other written works, but also to more modern works. And essentially what they are looking at doing is utilizing all of that compiled data, all of those stories, all of that information without paying for it, and using that to train their AI machines. Now, of course, this brings a lot of question into the liability, in which there's a responsibility to all of the authors, all of the creators, all of the people who have poured their lives' work into creating different works of literature and different written text, whether that's informational or educational, or whether or not it's works of fiction, nonfiction, and so forth. Those works need to be protected. With the reduction in the Copyright Office and oversight, of course, this becomes even less of a significant issue for the US. And that should be a bigger concern than what it is. And when I say that, I'm talking about mainstream media and other media outlets that are just kind of glossing over this real lack of responsibility. Now, of course, whether it's traditional media or new media, people are overlooking it, and yet it is the same issue that is going to bite them in the ass when it comes to protecting their works, whether it's copyright and creative rights and so forth. Again, if Elon Musk is able to bypass the copyright legislation and copyright laws when it comes to written literature, what is going to stop him from accessing all of the creative works, whether it's photography, videography, whether it's motion pictures, and other forms of creative arts? Of course, it's not going to stop him. If he is able to circumvent the literary copyrights, we know that the copyrights of other media will come under fire by the AI companies. Now, people tend to overlook technologies and the implications when they don't fully understand the technology itself. Now, basically all systems, when it comes to artificial intelligence, when it comes to the machine learning and other training modules and methods, is an important thing for people to understand. This means that essentially your data, whether or not it is your tax filings that Doge has access to, or your grocery store points club card in tracking every purchase that you make within the store, all of that data becomes extremely valuable to these corporations and to these AI training systems. And when they access that information without your consent, without your permission, or without the proper copyright guards and paying licensing to the property owners, the intellectual property, so it is, then of course this should be a major red flag to everybody. When AI is used to scan the U.S. Treasury Department systems, the U.S. Board of Education, which is being shuttered, when they are using it to look at the IRS or their external Department of Revenue, as they now have as well, of course, they are using it to look under the guise of fraud, waste, and abuse. However, what you may not understand is that as the AI systems are scanning those databases looking for alleged abuse, for alleged crimes and fraud and so much more, they're actually teaching their AI machines and their AI systems from all of that data that's being scanned. Simultaneously, as it is scanning the systems for the alleged purposes, it is actually learning from all of that data, including your personal data and the data of not only US citizens, but of citizens around the world when it dips into looking at the tax treaty details. And some may say that that is, not so invasive, but actually, when you file a W-8 as a foreign citizen doing business in the United States, there is a fair amount of tax-related information that shouldn't be shared with Elon Musk, with Doge, with any third party outside of government. There are laws, there are restrictions and regulations, not to mention the international treaties and international privacy rights that go with that. With the Trump administration allowing Doge and Elon Musk to continue with this system, it is corruption at the highest level. Now, you also need to take a look that Elon Musk is stepping back from Doge, and people will say, oh, it's not an issue anymore. Well, chances are, and my personal opinion is that he is stepping back because he's already stripped the US databases of all usable information. Now he's going to go back to his little lair because he's such a criminal and mischievous, we'll just leave it at that, a miscreant. But in any event, he has already stolen all of that data that you don't know that he has because he's been able to hide it or at least have it ignored by the U.S. Oversight Committee and others. So again, that is my speculation, my opinion, and it should be looked into at the very highest of levels within the US government and through the international organizations and international governments, including the Government of Canada. So again, if you do not think that this copyright, that this small little copyright issue, as some people describe it, doesn't have bigger ramifications and a ripple effect, then you are sadly mistaken. It is a very serious concern that Doge, that XAI, Grok, and other AI platforms may have access to all of your data, and you are basically screwed when it comes to them using it to train the AI of the future. With that said, folks, we will call it a show for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I am James Kuzno, coming to you from the ProPix Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. If you have any comments or inquiries, please feel free to email us directly at smile@propixcanada.com. That's smile@propicscanada.com. You can always leave comments in the comments section down below, as we appreciate that, and it helps to grow our channel and to expand the information to a wider audience. Don't forget, if you haven't already, like, follow, and subscribe. Again, that helps us to build the channel and to bring up more programs like this to you and to the world. Thanks again for tuning in. I am James Kuzno, coming to you from the ProPix Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. Stay safe, everybody.